What's up, everybody? I'm Ryan, and this is Far East Fusion, the creative cooking show where I take a Western dish and fuse it with an Asian dish. I'm not a professional cook, I'm not even a great cook, but I love food and I've traveled all around the world trying different dishes. This is not a recipe, this is creativity. I've never made this dish before, it may fail, but hopefully we'll be able to learn from it. Today I'm combining one of China's favorite things to eat for breakfast with one of Spain's most famous dishes. Paella is a rice dish packed with proteins. I'll be using chorizo, chicken, and shrimp, but I'll be making that paella into a congee. This is a very popular dish all across China and in other Asian countries. Some call it rice gruel or rice porridge, which doesn't really sound all that appetizing, but it's a thick soup often made from last night's leftover rice. When I lived in China, I barely ever ate congee because I found it too plain. Usually ingredients like pickled mustard stem are added or preserved egg, which does add some flavor, but it just didn't do it for me. But I promise you this version is going to be exploding with all the flavors of paella. While doing my research for paella, I kept reading about the best part of the dish. It's called socoratt. It's actually a word used to describe the crispy bits of rice that have crusted up along the bottom of the pan. It provides an alternate texture, a nice crunch in an otherwise pretty soft textured dish. I totally get it, so I wanted to somehow include those crunchy rice bits even though we're making a soup. And then I remembered guoba. And that's where we have to start today. The first step is to make rice. I've got a long grain rice because it works best. I'll get 220 milliliters of water boiling and rinse 160 grams of rice. Rice in, temp turned down low, lid on, and in around 18 minutes that'll be ready. We're adding just a half teaspoon of salt to it and 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Now I'll use some chopsticks to break up all the chunks and get all the grains of rice coated in the cornstarch. Guoba in English would translate to something like against the pot. Just like socoratt, it refers to the rice that gets crispy at the bottom of the pot. However, the Chinese have taken it a step further, and now they make an extra crispy version of that rice by itself. I'll take the now separated rice and carefully dump it into a nice even layer onto a baking tray. Spread it out so it's a single thin layer. That's pretty good, but to take it a step further, I'll get out some plastic wrap and press down on the rice to further break up the chunks, but being careful not to break the actual rice grains. That's looking good, so I'm going to take a spatula, wet the end down a bit so it doesn't stick to the rice, and cut out some squares, some easily manageable pieces. Now it's in the oven at 100 degrees Celsius or 210 Fahrenheit for a full 2 hours. We want this to dry right out. In China, because many people don't have ovens, they would just leave it out in the sun for a day or two, but 2 hours in the oven should leave us with the same results. Alright, next up is the congee base. This is pretty simple to do, we're basically overcooking rice. I'm going to cook my rice in some chicken stock for added flavor. The ratio for congee is 10 to 1, 10 parts liquid to 1 part rice. However, I'll be using some water in the paella as well, so I'm going to adjust that slightly, 8 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. Let's throw a couple inches of ginger in there, crush it, and toss it in. While that is coming to a boil, I'll rinse the rice. You really want to rinse it well. Remember, I have long grain rice in the oven for the guoba, but short grain rice works better for the congee. If you don't want to buy 2 kinds of rice, I'd just go with the longer grain. Congee is actually believed to have come from Tamil in ancient India, but it's eaten all over Asia now, and the Chinese probably eat it more than any other culture. In mainland China, they call it bai zhou, which translates to white porridge, but more often than not, you'll just hear it referred to as zhou or porridge, and it's assumed it's made with rice. Rice in, quick stir, bring it back to a boil, and temp turn down to low. That will simmer for about 20 minutes, which will overcook the rice exactly how we want it. 20 minutes later, and the broth is creamier with the rice starch in it. The rice is nice and soft, salt levels are good, but we'll take it off the heat, put a lid on it, and it'll continue to cook. It's common in China for a chef to make a big batch of this and always have it on hand to add ingredients and make a quick soup. Okay, let's get started on the paella. In Spain, they sell pans specific for paella. I don't have one, and I never will, but this pan will work just fine. You want something with a lot of cooking area and a heavy bottom. I've got my pan heating up with a couple tablespoons of olive oil. We'll start with the sofrito. This is the base for many Spanish dishes. Garlic, chili, onion, and red pepper. Usually tomatoes are added too, but I'm going to kind of cheat it a bit and just add some tomato paste later. Let's chop all this up. I'm basing this recipe on Jamie Bissonnette's version of paella. He's a James Beard Award-winning chef and he owns a Spanish restaurant in Boston, I believe. Onions go in first. You don't want to brown these, you just want to sweat them. Brown equals bitter, while sweated onions equals sweet. Next up, the garlic, and again, don't brown it. Oh, I forgot the chorizo. Okay, I should have put this in first. I'm looking to brown it and get some of the fat out of it so the rest of the ingredients can cook in it. I guess I'll toss in the red pepper and the hot pepper now. Quick video for Instagram. Okay, so I've got some boneless chicken thighs here. Oh god, I might have taken this too far. The sausages are nice. I'll take them out, but the onions are slightly overcooked, which I specifically told you not to do. I think it's fine. Needs a bit of salt, but I think we'll be okay. So normally for the chicken thigh, you'd want to cut it into pretty big hunks, but I'm going to cut them smaller because we are making a soup and I want to be able to scoop up a piece with a spoon and still have room on the spoon for other stuff. Chicken goes in and we'll cook this until it's almost done. Alright, I'm going to add a generous amount of paprika. Normally paella has saffron in it. I'm not using it because it's hard for me to find and it's pretty expensive. I know I'm going to get some hardcore paella people criticizing this recipe, but they have to relax and realize I'm not making a straight up paella here. Now for a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. This will also help to deglaze the pan. Anytime you add something acidic, it loosens up the brown bits that are caked to the bottom of the pan. In my case, it's the onions and garlics that I slightly overcooked. But it's okay, the tomato paste sets them free and they're full of flavor, so it'll be good. The sausage has rested and cooled down a bit, so now I'll cut it into chunks and toss it back in. I'm gonna only put 2 in. I'll save this other one for breakfast tomorrow or something. I'm giving you guys some measurements for these recipes, but like I said at the beginning, this is not a recipe, this is creativity. I really recommend you getting used to just eyeing how much to put in. This was a big step for me when it came to learning how to cook. It's like the difference between painting by numbers and painting something original. You gotta make it how you like it. Plus maybe your sausage is bigger. That sounds bad. Maybe it's bigger than the sausage that's used in the recipe. Maybe it's saltier. You need to adjust accordingly. So don't just blindly follow a recipe, use it as a guide. Okay, I'm going to boil some water and get some stock going. I've already cooked the rice in chicken stock, so for the paella, I'm going to try fish stock. I'll make about 500 milliliters or around 2 cups, which if you remember from when I made the congee, I used 8 cups instead of 10, so this 2 cups is the reason why. And we'll dump that right in, give it a stir, and I'll simmer this for just 10 minutes. If I was making a straight up paella, I'd be adding the uncooked rice now and cooking it right in the pan with all the other ingredients. Now let's clean and deshell about 6 nice sized shrimps. Shrimp doesn't take long, so I'm going to wait till the very end to put these in. It's time to combine the paella and the congee. The congee has thickened, it's nice and silky. I'll pull the ginger bits out and we'll just pour in the paella concoction. Yeah, I burned the crap out of that. Mix it up to combine everything. The color isn't great because of the burnt bits, I think. Hopefully the burnt flavors won't come through though. Oh, it's good. I'll put it over a really low heat so it combines the flavors and stays nice and warm. But we still have to finish the guoba, which according to my timer still needs another 30 minutes in the oven. Let's check the live audio. Anyways, like I was saying, shrimp is the fruit of the sea. You can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, bake it, saute it. There's shrimp kebabs, shrimp creole, shrimp gumbo, pan fried, deep fried. Okay, that was terrible. Alright, rice is dried right out. It was in the oven for 2 hours and then I let it cool for another hour. It looks pretty good, but before I can eat it, I need to deep fry it. And actually, while I'm doing that, I'll put my shrimp in the congee to let it cook. This is the part I fear most. I'm using canola oil, but any oil with a high smoke point will work. The oil needs to be very hot, and I'm only going to put the rice in for like 20 seconds. You can break the rice up into the squares that we cut out earlier. By the way, I got this recipe from my friends at Chinese Cooking Demystified. You can find a link to their great channel in the description below. They make guoba for a sanxian sauce. It's a really tasty and fun Sichuan dish. If you were a smart person, you'd use a thermometer to find the perfect oil temperature, something around 210 degrees Celsius. But I stupidly don't have one, so I'm going to go based on the fact that the oil has started to smoke. I'm nervous about this. I'll throw some squares in and count to 10 seconds, and then flip it and count another 10 seconds. Now I'll pull them out and baste them in hot oil for like 2 minutes. Alright, that didn't work out that well, but I'll let those drain and cool and I'll start my next batch. Smoke up the house. Some of these are burning, but I think there are some good pieces too. For this batch, I think I'm going to turn the heat down, hopefully to avoid some burning. I'll pull them out a bit earlier too and let the basting oil do more cooking. What we're trying to do here is evaporate the little bit of water that's left in the rice, which would make it puff, almost like a Rice Krispie, but not really anything like a Rice Krispie. See this? I learned from the first 2 batches, and the last batch is the best. I am now ready to assemble. I've got some lime here and some green onions. Let's do this. The congee is looking delicious. It's a bit brown. I guess I could have added some annatto or something to redden it up, but I'm okay with eating brown. The smells are awesome. I'm going to make sure I get some sausage, chicken, and shrimp. Sprinkle on some green onion and squeeze some lime juice in. I love lime juice on almost everything. And finally, our guoba / socoratt. Oh baby, I'm excited to eat this. Ooh, that's even better than what I thought it would be. With the crunchy bits, so good. It's not the most beautiful dish, but trust me, it is tasty. The combination of proteins, I love the shrimp in it. Chicken thighs are the best of chicken. I get a little spiciness from the sausage, and all that paprika makes it nice and rich. So what would I have done differently? I probably wouldn't have burnt the onions and garlic. I'm getting a tiny bit of that in the taste, but nothing too bad. I originally thought about doing all this in one pot rather than making the two and combining them. That would have been easier, but I felt like it was a bit of a risk. It might lose some flavor. I don't know. Maybe it would have been fine. The guoba is a pain. It's messy. It takes a long time, but I really do love the additional texture. Perhaps you could substitute it with something else crunchy, maybe something easier, maybe just some toasted cornflakes. Does that sound weird? I think it could work. Overall, a success in my eyes. I'm going to take the rest of this down and probably freeze some because I think it'll freeze well and won't lose much on the reheat. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you, or I hope you see me, or you can't really see all of me. I have no head. Okay, I'm done.